Good morning, scholars. It is National Spinach Day. I personally actually really enjoy spinach. I try to eat it almost every day. Sometimes that means in a salad or on a sandwich, or I'll saute it and put it with noodles or some kind of protein. But if you are looking to venture out in your palate and try a new leafy green, which is very good for you, um, then I would try and maybe try some spinach today if you happen to not know if you like it or not. If you like it, maybe eat some later. I don't know. But today's March 25th, Friday, well, it's Friday, March 25th, and we're going to explain how the Norman Kings helped lead to changes in the government in England that continue to affect our lives today. So some of the things that we're going to talk about actually still do affect us. So we have the do now, some notes, guided practice, independent practice, the usual, nothing different. So let's get started. So you're due now. Let me see if I can move this just a tad. All right, there we go. So your independent practice is another map skill practice. You have a map of India. You want to answer the question, which geographic feature would have most likely hindered the expansion of the Guptas into what is modern day China? So you need to not only analyze just what you're looking at, you need remember to look at the key, follow what the legend is telling you, and then just so you know, if you don't know what the word hindered means held back. So which geographic feature above would have most likely held back the expansion of the Gupta Empire into what is modern day China? So you also have to keep in mind where China is located when you are looking at India. So go ahead and pause the videos or video, why do I say videos, and answer the question, and we'll come back in a few minutes with the answer and explanation. Okay, so the correct answer is the Himalaya Mountains. So we see that the gray area, the gray shading, is the Gupta Empire. So we see that's all right here. And we see that the squiggly black line is those political boundaries, well, the current ones. So we want to see which geographic feature would have most likely held back the expansion. So in relation to India, China is east. So China is over here. So we look and the Thar Desert is not going to hinder that because the Thar Desert is to the west. The Bay of Bengal is not going to hinder that because it actually would create the ability to go to China because it would be a waterway here. And it's not the Deccan Plateau because that's actually located outside of the Gupta Empire. So really, if process of elimination, your only answer is the Himalayas. But if you know and are aware in the relation of where, I mean, some of you might even be able to answer this question without even looking at the map, to be honest. But if you know where China is in relation to India, which is over here, we see this huge mountain range that cuts us off. This is the mountain range that has Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, on it. So, or in it. And so, Himalayas is going to be your answer. If you got it correct, um, congratulations. This is another one of those questions from the New York Regents that New York students in 12th grade and high school have to pass to be able to graduate high school. It's kind of like the OGT in Ohio, which is the Ohio graduation test, which you have to pass to be able to graduate high school. That is their version of it. So you are answering a high school level question. If you didn't get it right, that's okay. You'll have lots of other opportunities to work with these questions, and you probably learned something as well. So we have quite a few words today. We do have 5. Our first word is the Magna Carta, and this is a very, very important document. Basically, which we'll talk about later, King John of England was trying to tax the crap out of people because he needed an army to keep he needed an army and he couldn't afford it. So what he did, how does a king get money? Because he doesn't really get paid. He just taxes the people, which means more people or the citizens of the country have to pay more and to the king. And the barons or those aristocrats didn't like that. They strongly opposed that, which I get. Um, and so they basically force him to sign this document that says, you can't do that anymore, and you have to follow the rules just as much as everybody else, because he was also holding secret trials, which mean, or he had secret arrests and was holding trials, but without a jury. So it was just him and whoever was arrested, and he could have easily said, whatever the defendant said, he could have been like, no, you're guilty, you owe this much money, bye. And so that wasn't okay, and that actually leads us to trial by jury today, which means you kind of hear that in your rights when if you get arrested, which none of you will get arrested, but they say like you have the right to remain silent. If you do not have a lawyer, one will be appointed to you. Everyone has the right to a trial by jury. Common law is laws that are developed from custom and judges' decisions rather than laws that are passed by an assembly, which we'll talk about. Habeas corpus is which we still follow today, prevents secret arrests. So someone can't just like arrest you without probable cause. So they can't just bring you in they can bring you in if you're suspected of something, or they can detain you if you're suspected of something. Detain is different than being arrested. Detain means the police are taking you in and there's going to be further questioning involved. But it prevents secret arrests where they actually arrest you and lock you up. And a court order to bring a prisoner to trial, which means this would be something like a warrant. So sometimes you might hear about like people having a warrant for their arrest. That means a lot of things, but it's a court order to bring the prisoner or the person to trial to be tried for it to be innocent or guilty. So basically that's right to a trial. A writ is just a court order, which we often call that a warrant now. And then Parliament's the assembly of representatives who make laws. This is the English equivalent of our Congress. So our Congress is we have the House of Reps who make laws, but the English version of that is called Parliament. So we're going to see that start to emerge, which still affects us today because that's what a lot of these things, these vocab words, affect our lives today because we took these from this culture and put it into the American Constitution of the United States. So pause if you need to finish getting that. So we're going to go ahead and start guided practice. Let me move my face a little bit so when we get to the answers, I can do that. So limits on royal power. So now we're going to talk about that, how King John taxed the people and how the society, particularly the aristocratic or rich barons, try and put limit on his power and say, you can't do that. Like, this is not right. The Norman kings were always you can't do whatever you want. The Norman kings were always trying to strengthen the central government, but powerful feudal lords often opposed them. Kings had to ask their barons for money and soldiers to wage wars and crusades. In return, the barons could make demands on their king. So basically, the kings were always trying to make a strong central government where the kings were kind of in charge of everything. But unfortunately, the barons had all the money, and the king needs the money to function as far as like battle and going to war and things like that. So the barons kind of had leeway there where they could say, well, sure, we'll give you this, this, and this, but you have to do this, this, and this. So it's kind of like just like a weird give and take relationship, but the barons were more demanding. Kind of like blackmail, I think. That's what it is. King John in 1199, a new ruler became King of England. As a descendant of William the Conqueror, King John also claimed Normandy and France. However, claiming and ruling things were very different. In 1204, John had lost control over most of his French lands. To get them back, he needed to raise an army. To raise that army, he needed money from taxes. His efforts to fund his army led to conflict with the barons over taxes and royal power. So now you see this butting of heads here where the king says, hey, we need to get this land back. I need money. And the barons say, hey, we need to get these lands back, but we don't like how you're giving us or asking us for all this money. So signing the Magna Carta. By 1215, England's leaders had had enough of King John's high taxes and military failures. So they're basically saying, We're sick of backing you and giving you all this money to fight, and you're not even winning. You're not even winning. So think of like professional basketball, right? Like I'm paying you millions of dollars, to play basketball, and you're not even doing anything. So those players' contracts, the money is going to go down the next year because they're not even performing to what they were promised as far as money wise. So if I'm paying you $10 million for a contract for a year for I'm just going Cleveland Cavs, if that player is benched the whole season or doesn't perform to what they promised, the next year the contract's not gonna fly. So that's what it's kind of the same thing. They were getting sick of it. Like we're backing you, we're giving you all this money, and you're not even winning these battles. Like we're pouring our money into the down the drain. Rebellious barons forced the king to sign a document that promised them um, certain rights. This document came to be known as the Magna Carta, which is Latin for Great Charter. A charter is a legal document. We're not talking about chartering a boat or anything like that. In the Magna Carta, King John agreed to recognize the rights of barons. He promised he would not collect more taxes without the approval of a council of barons and churchmen. He also promised to recognize the right of trial by jury. The charter stated that the king will not proceed against the accused or send others to do so except according to the lawful sentence of his peers and according to common law. So again, he cannot sentence someone in a trial without a jury voting on that decision. So let's go ahead and answer our guided practice questions. Why did King John need to levy or get high taxes? Or why did he have to give high taxes? And two, what restrictions did the Magna Carta impose or put on King John? So what did he have to do or not be allowed to do because of the Magna Carta? Go ahead and pause. Sorry. Do that. All right. My face again. So why did King John need to levy high taxes? He needed money to raise an army to regain control of his lands in Normandy, France. And if you look here, it's all in here. So King John also claimed Normandy. He lost control. He needed to raise an army, so he needed to raise taxes. What restrictions did the Magna Carta impose on King John? He could not tax barons without approval. So that's here. He promised he would not collect taxes without the approval. And he had to recognize the trial by jury, which is right here as well. So go ahead and pause and get that down or fix it if you need to. If you do not have it in exactly my words, that is fine. It does not need to be verbatim. In fact, like in all reality, I'd almost not want it to be verbatim. I'd want it to be the same idea, but in your own words. But if you are like way out in left field, please change it. So you're going to do independent practice. You are going to look at English law and how it was different than other European countries, because it is very different. Then you're going to look at habeas corpus a little more in depth, and then how the English Parliament evolved, or how did the Parliament grow and change. So obviously it's going to talk about the beginning of Parliament, and then it's going to change. And then you have multiple choice questions over this entire section, so today and yesterday. And then just so you know, for number 6, it's actually 4 questions, 6, 7, 8, and 9, but you're going to put the date. So you're going to have to go back into the text from yesterday and today, and you're going to need to find the date the Norman conquest succeeds, the date that John becomes king, and this is the year, not exact like any of that. Magna Carta is signed, the year Magna Carta is signed, and the year Parliament comes into being. So the year Parliament is created. And so you'll just put those dates 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you are done, and you are finally ready for your weekend, unless you still need other lessons to finish, which you'll do that. And if you haven't filled out the attendance form, please do so, and I will see you all next week.